If I had to go back and learn putting all over again from the beginning, this is what I'd do. And the fact is that most golfers, maybe even you, learned putting backwards or wrong. And so now you go through the rest of your life chasing a fix for this problem or a fix for that problem. Sometimes those fixes work, other times they don't. But it seems like every fix creates a new problem, and then you're looking for a fix for that, and it's frustrating, and three putting is part of your game forever. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I'd do if I had to learn putting again all over from scratch. And by the way, this is the same thing that I do when I'm struggling. I go back and focus on these three things. And it's exactly what tour pros do when they work on their putting. In fact, I'll include a couple of secrets in this video that tour pros use that you don't ever hear anyone talk about. So let's get to it. First thing I would do if I was going to learn putting all over again is I would learn to roll the ball straight. Now, I know that sounds simple, but at the same time, it's profound because I see so many people, and you do too, even on TV watching the tour pros. Their line up and where they roll the ball are not consistent. They don't roll it straight up their intended target line. Tons of people make this mistake. So I would work on figuring out how to stand over the ball and how to put my hands on this thing so that I can keep this putter face square. By the way, that'll help you not only with putting, but with your entire game as well, because all you're doing when you're playing golf is using a club, which is a lever, to apply force to the ball. And you're trying to control this club face. And before you can do that at high speed with a driver or an iron, you've got to be able to control that face at slow speed with a putter. So I'd learn how to roll the ball straight. I might get some, and I wouldn't buy a whole lot of putting aids and tools to help with that because most of them are unnecessary. I might start with a couple of alignment rods and just work on rolling the ball straight between those rods. And when I could do that consistently, I'd put them closer together and work on that. You can do the same thing with a couple of tees and a ball, make a gate drill. You don't need to go buy gates or anything like that. I might use a tool. I probably would use a tool like the one putt ruler because it gives me the ability to stand behind the ball and see where I'm aimed when I'm aimed at my target. And then it gives me an intermediate target 9 inches out in front of my ball so that I can work on rolling the ball straight over that target for at least 9 inches. And it helps me keep the putter face square in those first 5 inches immediately behind the ball. And that's critically important. I wouldn't think about arcs and pendulums and all of that because the fact is I want to move my hands straight back and straight through like a pendulum. But at the same time, my putter isn't shafted straight up and down vertical. It's shafted at a lie angle like this, which means if I move my hands straight back and straight through like a pendulum, that the putter head itself is going to arc. And I would learn that and understand that my shoulders are 3/4 rotating joints. So there's a limit to how much I have the ability to go straight back and through. There's a limit to how much I have the ability to control an arc. I'd learn that in my head and then immediately forget it and remember. Take my hands straight back and straight through. Keep the putter face square to the target line. Outside of that, I don't care about arcs or pendulums. I'm not trying to control them or create them. And anything that anybody else ever says about that, I'd ignore it because you get caught up and that has you starting to make mistakes that you then have to correct. The other thing I do in rolling the ball straight is learn how to keep my wrist from taking over the stroke. I wouldn't putt with my arms like this. I'd learn how to grip the putter in such a way that my wrists don't bend and take over the stroke so that my putter face is not flopping like a fish or arcing like a windshield wiper on my car. And that means that I might do two things with my grip. If I had a really super dominant trail hand, for me, that's the right hand that causes the putter face to roll over, my wrist to roll. I might try gripping left hand low so that this right wrist just has to push against my left wrist, and that keeps my right wrist from taking over the stroke. I might try that. The only other thing I might try is a Paul Runyon style grip with my hands way under the putter and my fingers on the sides of the putter and my thumbs on the sides of the putter grip. No pressure on the top or the bottom of the putter. All the pressure on the sides with my hands underneath, because it's much more difficult that way to move your wrist. That helps me keep this putter face square to my target line in those 5 inches behind the ball and roll it straight up the line. But I would work on those things until I could consistently roll the ball straight up the line. And then the second thing I would learn is to have a consistent speed and tempo to my putting stroke. And I mean the whole stroke, because a consistent speed and tempo helps you be much more accurate. It helps you control speed and distance, and it occupies your brain so you don't have crazy thoughts creeping in about how important this putt is and all of that. Let me illustrate what I would do here for speed and tempo. I'd learn how to move this putter face at the same speed or tempo all of the time. In other words, I'd have a rhythm. I'd go out on the practice green, and you've seen me do this before in other videos, with a metronome, and I would set it at a certain number of beats per minute. You can get a free metronome app on your phone and work on starting the stroke on one beat, contacting the ball on the next beat. So there's 2 beats to every stroke. You've seen me illustrate that at 60 beats a minute. That's a little slow for most people. The best putters in the world are somewhere between 66 and 75 or even 76 beats per minute. Tiger Woods was at 66. There are a few tour players now who are in the 80s, even as high as 83, but somewhere between, say, 64 and 80 is a good rhythm. It's going to vary for you depending on what type of personality you are. If you're super chill, then in the 60s. If you're a lot more aggressive, A-type, then in the 70s. I use about 72, 74. It varies, but get a tempo that works for you and learn how to control the speed and the distance by moving the putter the same way every time. But now I'm going to add something to that for you. But learn not just a 2 count, stroking the putt, start on this beat, contact on the next beat, but an actual 8 count. And here's what I mean when I talk about an 8 count. Once I've completed my setup, I've got my putter head behind the ball on my line, I start. 1, I'm looking at the ball. 2, I'm looking at the hole. 3, I'm looking at my target beside the hole if the putt is a breaking putt. 4, I'm looking at my intermediate target back about 8 or 9 inches out in front of my ball. 5, I'm back to that same spot on the ball. 6, I start the stroke. 7, I contact the ball. 8, I look up to see where the ball went. That covers everything, and it gives me a smooth, consistent rhythm and tempo so that I feel like I'm making the same stroke every time. The rhythm is the same, the tempo is the same, the process is the same. The only thing that changes is the length of the backstroke. There are 2 things in this that the tour pros that you don't ever hear anyone talk about very much. One is the very best putters on the tour all use this type of an 8 count or something very similar to that. You can sit down with a timer and watch. The best putters on the PGA Tour, the ones who are leading in strokes gained putting, the one who have the fewest average putts per round every year, you can time them, and you'll notice from the time they set their putter behind the ball, put both hands on the putter, you can time it. And on every stroke throughout the season, it's within a half a second when they strike the ball. The same tempo every time. They're making the same putt every time, which holds up when it's important, when there's money on the line, when it's a pressure putt. That's why if I were learning over again, I'd learn to do that. And the second thing related to that rhythm and tempo, I'd make my backstroke longer than my follow through. And I know people are going to respond and argue. That's great. You don't have to agree with me on this. Put your comments in there. Don't be rude about it. No worries. If you'll notice, the best putters on the tour, no matter the length of the stroke, big backstroke or small backstroke, they always stop their hands about here at their front pocket. There's none of this like you see so many amateurs do. And I'd work on a ladder drill where I set a target like here. I've got alignment rods and I try to roll the ball just past that first rod. And then the next one a little further than that. The next one a little further than that. And then the last one all the way past the second alignment rod. But some type of a ladder or target so I get a feel for what the stroke is like to hit the ball, different distances that I choose and control. And then I would do before every round, and I practice this a lot and still do this before every round, what I call the kiss drill, where I go out and drop a ball on the green and just roll it with my putter, and I watch it. I see where it goes, how fast it rolls, and then I drop a second ball and try to roll that second ball where it goes up the same line at the same speed and just touches that first ball. Or if the line is off a little bit, it goes exactly the same distance. That's giving me a feel for a smooth, consistent stroke that controls the speed and the distance. And then the third thing I would do, once I learned to roll the ball straight up a target line at a consistent rhythm, speed, and tempo, is I would learn to read greens. The fact is, greens slope, there's almost never a straight putt. I'd learn what uphill does to putts and what downhill does to putts. And I'd figure out which direction the ball was going to move because of gravity and slope on the green. But I would not learn some complicated green reading system that requires me to learn a new skill, like learning how to feel the amount of slope with my feet and stomping around on the line of the putt and then using my fingers. I wouldn't go to all that because that's not how I live and move. Think about this. You know how to detect slope. Your body and brain knows how to detect slope automatically without even thinking about it. When you're walking around, you start up a hill, you don't trip and fall, stub your toe because the ground is rising in front of you. No, your body sees that. You make an adjustment and walk up the hill. When you're on a side slope, you don't think, oh, I have to shorten this leg because that way is uphill and I have to lengthen. You don't do that. Your body just walks and does that naturally. I'd use a simple green reading method like the EGOS Expert Green Reading Operating System. I've done 12 or 13 videos on that on the channel. I created an EGOS Green Reading Masterclass, but I'd learned to use something like that that's very simple and intuitive, and at a bare minimum, you can learn very quickly and easy the direction that any putt is going to break. Then with a little practice, you can learn to calibrate your reads so that you know exactly how far it's going to break in that direction. But I'd learn it in that order. How to roll the ball straight at a consistent speed and rhythm and tempo that gives me something to do so I'm not thinking negative thoughts and standing over the ball with my mind racing and my heart pounding. Just a calm, simple process, counting to 8 every time, and then I'd learn to read greens. If you think about it that way, if you roll the ball on a consistent line and speed at a consistent distance and you have the breakdown right, you are almost never going to 3-putt. And then you won't be searching for fixes that create more problems. You'll just do a little practice to improve your consistency and maintain what you already have. You'll be a much happier, less frustrated golfer and a way better putter. And if you like that concept and you want to take this deeper, then check out my online course, How to Putt the Right Way, that covers all of these subjects. My green reading course, the Eagles Green Reading Masterclass, the Putting Vault, which keeps you in the loop with constantly growing these three skills instead of trying to fix things that are broken. And of course, you know the rest of the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, share this video with a friend who needs the help. Go ahead and check out this video on the screen now. And until next time, here's to you making more putts.